Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Yes. So it's been definitely an interesting beginning of the year. A lot of things happening, a lot of time to think. And I know it's going to take me a while to get used to 2025. I always take like two or 3 weeks to learn how to write the correct date. But I think I'm not the only one, which is good.
So do we all. Absolutely.
So it's been definitely a good beginning of the year. Had time to just refresh, spend time with family, relax. As I said, time to reflect. How was your end of the year, Hannah?
Yeah, 2024 was actually a good year for us. And I say actually, I shouldn't say it like that, but it's been a rough couple of years. So 2024 has really ended in a beautiful light note, like a light way for me and my little family. So I must admit that running into 2025 for the first time in about 5 years, I feel really optimistic, and I feel like things are shifting and moving in a much more sort of positive direction. That's the truth. How about you?
It was good. Well, I had the last month of 2024 was very hectic for me.
Yes.
I moved to Italy from the UK after 15 years.
Yes.
My loved one came with me, so of course it's been a big change for him as well. On paper, when I tell to people, oh, I'm going back home, I went back home, everyone is like, oh, it must be easy. No, it's not. It's not easy, especially when you move to a country where there's just so much bureaucracy. So yeah, the last few weeks of 2024 have been intense, to say the least.
All about change.
Yeah, all about change, really, which is interesting, exciting, but also very tiring. So I was glad to have a couple of days towards the end of the year just to stop and just refresh. And just just trying to think a little bit about how I wanted to start my 2025, and which is actually very well connected to what we are going to talk about today, which is New Year's resolutions. Do you normally think about New Year's resolutions? Like, because people either love them or hate them. So
I am
where
going to
are
be
you?
honest. Controversial that we're talking about this, and maybe as a coach as well, when we're trying to be in the growth mindset. I will be honest that New Year's resolutions don't actually sit super well with me. It mentally puts a hell of a lot of pressure on us that we must start afresh in the new year. And I'm probably one of those people that will actually not try to start a New Year's resolution in January, because I know that it's going to fail. So yeah. I'm one of those people that is almost superstitious about if we start anything in the new year, let's wait till February.
Okay.
That's how I tackle the New Year's.
So you're gonna have a February
I'll have a month off.
resolution. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I have the feeling that when I was younger, I used to be a lot more motivated. I also felt a lot more the pressure. But as you said, I think probably now that I am a little bit older, I know that even though there is a lot of pressure, in reality, what really matters is how I am going to organize my time, my schedule, everything around me so that I can actually achieve the goals that I set for myself. And normally it doesn't happen because they are so unrealistic. I guess probably for everyone, the best example is, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym every day, or I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to start eating healthy every day. Like New Year's resolutions, normally, not just for me, but I guess in general, they are typically centered on health, relationships, personal growth. However, even though on paper they are great, they sound great, and we all desire this positive change. Often we do not have the tools to be able to actually put them in practice. So there's no structure for sustainable success. And this is something that we are going to talk a little bit about today, because it's very important. If we know the direction in which we are going, but we don't know how we are getting there, then we're not going to go anywhere, right?
Totally. Yeah. Since learning to be a coach, I've started to realize what it takes to really stick to a resolution or personal growth in general.
Yeah.
So we're going to definitely talk a bit more about that today.
Exactly.
And I just wanted to slip in here. Did you know that New Year's resolutions started like so many years ago? We're looking back to ancient civilization, right? And it actually started with the Babylons, who made promises to their gods at the start of a new year. And in modern times, that's just slowly changed into shifting into making promises to ourselves, our own God. And it sort of shifted to those personal goals and promises that have been made to ourselves rather than to deities, which we can totally imagine how that's happened over the years. And we've already sort of touched on this, but today's resolutions, I believe there is a statistic out there that over 90% of New Year's resolutions fail. And it would be good for us to kind of talk a bit about that and to think about why a resolution tends to fail. And going back to what I said, that if I start something new in January, it's going to fail. Just even that pressure itself being put on top of my shoulders just feels too intense. So I've learned over the years, let's shift that to a little bit later. But I think the thing that we need to think about is that making a wish, which is basically what a lot of New Year's resolutions are, but without an action or an action plan attached to it, it's always going to fail. Let's be realistic. And that tends to be what most of us do when it comes to New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be curious to know if even the Babylonians struggled with, you know, it is reassuring.
Then.
It would be reassuring to know that we are not the only ones struggling, but we definitely have very high expectations nowadays. And one of the very first things that we learned in coaching is that without a SMART goal, you can't really go anywhere. And so it's not just the idea of having a goal. It's the idea that it needs to be something measurable, and it needs to be something achievable, because coming up with something like, oh, I want to go to the gym every day, I want to go and do CrossFit 5 days a week. You're probably not going to do it if you haven't done anything in the last 6 months of your life. So it needs to be, I think we need to be very realistic when it comes to our expectations, so that we don't get disappointed and we don't feel like failures, and therefore we give up. So that's where life coaching is so important in that sense. Coaching in general is so important.
Yeah, and you've got then someone to really hold you accountable, because that's the other thing, isn't it? That we kind of put this idea out into the world, and then no one's holding you accountable, let alone yourself. And this goes to manifestation as well. If you've heard of manifesting, it's the same kind of idea around that we're just putting a wish out into the world, but actually manifesting and just saying, I will be healthy in 2025. But not actually looking into the detail of it and putting any action behind that is probably not going to happen. And I know that's
exactly.
really simplistic, what I'm saying. It is a simplistic idea. Let's add some action to it. And we thought it would be fun today to put some action in place. And I'm going to have a little coaching session for a New Year's resolution, aren't we, today?
Yes. So we're going to have a little conversation, and we're going to talk about a goal that you brought today. So we're going to follow a model that's called the GROW model, and it's basically divided in 4 parts: goal, reality, options, and will. We're going to talk you through it a little bit while I ask the questions. And the idea is that hopefully this should help Hannah stick to her goal and get where she wants to go. So tell me a little bit, what is your goal? What would you like to talk about today?
So I thought I'd bring something very relatable to many, many people, and it is about health and fitness. I actually have a background in moving my body. I've been a yoga teacher and a yoga enthusiast for 14 years. As just a tiny bit more background, as a kid, I moved my body a lot, but turned 16, I think it was, and stopped moving my body. So I was a kid that was very active, grew up in a pretty active family. Some of my family members are, in fact, athletes as a profession. So it's kind of in my genetics. And then at the age of 16, I stopped moving my body, got interested in boys, and I was also a musician, so just concentrated on that. And also probably hit puberty very late. So overnight, I ballooned from the age of 16 to sort of 17 and a half, and did not move my body for about 10 years. And then at the age of 26, realized I had to change things. And thank goodness I did it before the age of 30. So it was somewhat simple for my body. It is the elasticity, and I could get back into moving my body, and it felt fabulous. So I have got a movement background. I will put that out there. However, I still think I'm quite lazy. And it is still a huge effort for me to prioritize sort of, I don't really love pushing my body. And that's probably why I've gravitated to things like dance and yoga. I like things to be a lot more easeful. However, I am now 40, and everybody's telling me that I should be doing more strength training. And I've dabbled in it over the years. I've even had exchanges of personal training for yoga sessions back in the day when I lived in Australia. And I've just never really found the love of it. And therefore, I've never really stuck to it. But this drive inside of me, I know the benefits of weight training. But putting it in as like a really scheduled, dedicated thing into my life, still not there like I am with other things that I can do. And and some people might be like, well, why is it so important? I think health is really important, and I believe in that. That's a really big value of mine, health. So I think I would like to bring to the table, very long-winded to get there, I apologize. I'd like to bring to the table today that I want to incorporate weightlifting into my weekly schedule. And I want, by the end of the year, to have seen and felt some transformation with
Okay.
regards to weightlifting. Yeah.
Okay. So when you say that you want to incorporate weightlifting into your weekly schedule,
Yeah.
let's see if there's a number that comes to mind, or how would you be able to measure this?
Good question. I have a hope
Mm-hmm.
that I can
Mm-hmm.
incorporate it 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all that I would need, but I really want to stick to 3 times a week. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, I manage it some weeks
Mm-hmm.
and then I do it once. And then I'm like, oof, I better do it again. So then I do it 2 times in a row, 2 days in a row. Then I hurt. And then I go on holiday and then and then I stop for a month
Mm-hmm.
and I go back into it and it hurts again. And I just
Mm-hmm.
still can never quite keep this sort of
Get into it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so by the end of the year, you want to feel that you've made some improvement. And the idea is that you want to stick to your 3 times a week practice.
Yep.
Okay. In terms of your reality, so let's talk about what's happening now in relation to this goal. What is your current level of experience, of expertise? What do you do at the moment with weightlifting?
So I do it all at home and I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
with that. I believe that I can still get results just doing it from home.
Mm-hmm.
We have a dedicated room in our
Mm-hmm.
house that has weights, and because my husband works out as well, and he does it at home a lot. Not everything, but he does some of his workouts at home. So it's there, that room. I like I said before, I can have a good run for a good couple of weeks in a row, and I'm just about managing probably 2.5 sessions on average per week for maybe a month, and then it'll just totally drop off. And then I flit and go, oh, I just want to do yoga now. So I kind of just go down that path instead and get
Mm-hmm.
sidetracked.
How do you feel about weightlifting?
I like it a lot more than I used to. So
Mm-hmm.
since doing it at home, just with dumbbells and um, bar, just the like weights that you can have at home. God, I can't even think of the names of them all. That's how much I know about weightlifting. I used to when I actually when I had a PT, I hated it. Literally hated it. Didn't like being told what to do. Couldn't stand it. Whereas doing it at home in my house, and I just try to follow some sort of Instagram people.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely enjoy it a lot more
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing it. It's probably the first
Mm-hmm.
time I have felt enjoyment. So I'm like, okay, there. I feel like I could actually keep this going because
Mm-hmm.
there's a new sense of enjoyment whilst I'm doing it than I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
But it does still feel like um, I can't put it into words. It's almost like sometimes about it.
So you mentioned that normally you manage to do 2.5 sessions per week.
Oh, that's in a good month.
Okay. And
Then it will
so,
trail off, and then I get it back up again.
mm-hmm. So what stops you from getting the 3 sessions in, the ones that you want to do actually?
I don't know if my husband will listen to this one. I prioritize him and his time
Mm-hmm.
over me weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
I will make sure that he gets his workouts in because he works many more hours than I do usually,
Mm-hmm.
and brutal hours. And I know that for him, it really, really changes his mental health if he
Mm-hmm.
has worked out or hasn't. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
profound, so that benefits me. So I would rather he has the time in the gym and I'll cook dinner or I'll walk the dog. And he shares a lot of those things with me, but we'll do it together.
Mm-hmm.
Can quite easily be like, oh no, you go use the gym and I'll cook dinner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's, I don't know where that comes from. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
I probably still quite enjoy cooking over working out.
So I was just about to ask you, so if your husband didn't need the gym,
Yeah.
let's imagine your husband preferred swimming or running,
Yeah.
would you stick to your 3 sessions? Would it be, yeah.
That's a really good question, because I made that out as though that's 100% him in that question. In that answer that I had before, I was like, oh, it's because my husband needs the gym. And that's not true, because he doesn't always use that space, and I could use it at a different time of the day. Yeah, what is the excuse? Because I love, once I've done it, I always feel such a sense of achievement afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that classic, oh, this is going to be hard work. Do I have enough energy? And then
Mm-hmm.
I've also got to do this, and this. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to probably at the beginning of a week, properly scheduling it in, like I do doing this podcast, like I do
Yeah.
scheduling in seeing a client.
Mm-hmm. You, of course, you mentioned that you are a yoga teacher,
Yeah.
and based on what you told me, yoga is your choice, is your physical activity of choice, right? It's your go-to, as it could be dance.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in a training? How do you want a training to make you feel?
Yeah, it's I want to feel, there's a few things that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm training, there is a mental battle going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard, but it's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when I'm doing it, I can crack on with it and get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is
Mm-hmm.
like the knowledge that before I go and work out, there's going to be discomfort coming my
Mm-hmm.
way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've probably loved yoga because for me, and please don't misread this, anyone that's listening who thinks yoga is really hard and thinks this about yoga, because there are times that yoga can be very hard and challenging
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as well. And I appreciate that. But for me, the way that I teach and the way that I gravitate towards other yoga teachers is this sense of allowing for whatever is here to be here. And it's a wonderful space for you to choose how you want to respond on any particular day to, let's say you get onto your yoga mat and you're feeling really energetic, and then actually only a few minutes in you're like, do you know what, I thought I was really energetic, but I don't feel too fabulous in my body today. Then you can totally change the tune and sort of tone it down a bit. And I've learned, oh, this is really fascinating saying this out loud, because I need to actually incorporate this into my weightlifting. I've learned that in yoga you adapt to whatever is here in the here and now. But for some reason, I can't bring that. I'm not bringing that mentality to weightlifting. I'm bringing a mentality of it has to feel intense. It has to feel hard. It has to feel exhausting.
Which is very interesting, because it sounds like your mindset is set in a specific gear. You have a specific idea of how weightlifting should be, not necessarily how it is, but it's how it should be. And yoga, it's a completely different thing because, of course, you have more knowledge, you have been doing it for longer, and you have this way of adapting your training, your yoga session, depending on how you feel. So what is there that you are doing in your yoga session, or maybe that you used to do in your dance sessions, that you could bring into your weightlifting sessions to make them a little bit more creative?
Well, that just really felt like a light bulb moment saying that out loud, because I think I really thought, hey, I have all this movement experience.
Mm-hmm.
I should know better. So I almost feel a bit embarrassed saying what I've just said out loud. But the realization saying what I've just said out loud is that I have really separated these two activities when I could bring that mentality of how I approach my yoga practice, which is I roll out my mat, whatever comes today is perfectly good, and that's how it's going to unfold today, and I'm usually
Mm-hmm.
really okay with that. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if I could bring that to my weightlifting, then perhaps I would get into that room more
Mm-hmm.
frequently and not
Mm-hmm.
be upset with myself if
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes in I do less reps or I lower the weight. At least I'm still doing it, I'm still present, and it's better than not doing it.
Exactly. And I think this is something, going back to the resolutions, this is something that needs to be incorporated in everything we do. So having a little bit of compassion, knowing that we want to start small from a goal that is manageable, and then you can grow from there. But, there might be days when your body is not necessarily feeling 100%, just showing up and adapting what you are doing rather than doing nothing at all. It actually makes you feel that you have accomplished something. So in your case, it would be using your experience in a physical activity that you are familiar with and incorporate it into something that feels a little bit less maybe inspiring or creative in that sense. So, what kind of options do you have at the moment? So this is my favorite part, honestly. This is the creative part of the model. So this is where you can really let your mind run wild and just think about all the different things that you may be doing, could be doing. You don't have to commit to that. But what do you think are your options at the moment to reach the goal that you set at the beginning?
So let's just pick off a couple of non-creative things just to get it out in the open,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll attempt to be creative about this. But the first things that have sprung to mind through our conversation is, and I think I said it already, just like I'm scheduling my other meetings or other things that I do, start to schedule in um, my weightlifting,
Mm-hmm.
and check in with my husband to see when
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it. Uh, that holds me more accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to the other thing, oh gosh, I just had an idea then, and then it disappeared from my brain as quickly as it popped in. um, the other things that okay, so at the moment, I randomly follow a few people on Instagram, and I think, yeah, okay, I need to ask my husband about this stuff,
Hmm.
because he actually creates his own um, sort of schedule for a week or a month,
Mm-hmm.
programs what he's
Mm-hmm.
going to do. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know why I haven't really approached him about this, because he'd probably love to be like, right, this is what you're going to do. Not that he's an absolute expert in women's weightlifting and body composition or anything like that, but he has way more knowledge than I do. And if I approached him and said, right, this is what my ultimate goal is, where do I start? What do you think it looks like? He'd probably get quite excited by the prospect of that. My fear, and I think why I haven't done it, is that he'll get overly excited and give me too much. And I'll just be like, I can't commit to this. This is too much. Because he approaches these things really differently to me. So that's probably what's held me back. But let's put that down as an option, which is get my husband on board, helping me out with a bit of a program. I don't have to ask my husband for a program. I can also, I guess, look up more things online, what a week would look like. I think that would, at the moment, I know that I'm just sort of randomly doing stuff. I want to be less random about it. I think that would be quite helpful in terms of keeping me more committed.
So having more structure, having some sort of plan would definitely help. Asking your husband would definitely help. What else?
Creativity, you mentioned the word earlier. I do sometimes feel a little bored with something I'm doing. Part of me quite likes that there's a repetition of stuff. I miss some creativity elements. I could do with purchasing a couple more things for our room space. So that means I can do more exercises, which means that there's a bigger repertoire, which makes it a little more creative and less boring. I could try to find a buddy of some kind. One for accountability, two create competition, maybe. I'm not so competitive. That's not true. We're all a bit competitive, aren't we? I could be. I could sign up for something. There are loads of these Instagram babes out there where you can be part of a group that's all working towards one goal. I've never done one of those. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Could kickstart me.
At this point, everything is an option. I mean, the great thing about this section is that you don't really have to commit to anything. It could be even something that maybe right now is not feasible, but it's good for you to think out of the box and think about all the things that you could potentially do, maybe even in the future, maybe in 2, 3, 6 months.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's go back quickly to your initial goal. Let's just remind ourselves, what do you want to achieve?
So if I was going to put this in a super smart goal, somewhat skipped over slightly, I want to put it into present language. I am averaging 3 weightlifting sessions a week, consistently by the end of 2025. I also want to add in there that I feel stronger. And let's be honest, I would like to look like there's been effort in there too. You know? And I don't have huge aspirations or goals with that. I I'm pretty low key about having to have a set amount of extra inches on my buttocks or less on my thighs, whatever it is. I don't care about that stuff, but I'm more your throw away the weighing machine and look at yourself and see how you feel type girl.
Definitely. So let's think about our way forward. Well, your way forward. So this is the final part of our model. So what kind of action, what would be the first action that you would put in place to move toward your goal out of all the options that you mentioned?
I need to start scheduling time that I can regularly do it per week. And I need my husband to know this is the time that I'm doing it. So when we check in, we both have, we don't work 9 to 5, either of us. He's a shift worker. So every week is different. And that's why me committing to scheduling stuff can be tricky. But since I've been a coach, I have to schedule other people into my schedule. So I tell him at the beginning of the week or whenever it is that we check in, I tell him, okay, I've got these sessions this week, so this is what it looks like. I need to also say, this is when I'm working out. Because my yoga practice, meditation, I just slip that in all somehow around things and it kind of works. But for some reason, the weightlifting stuff, I'm struggling to really commit to a set amount per week. So it's schedule it.
When are you going to do this?
So I said no Year's resolution should start in January. I'm going to stick to that. It's a superstition now. So it's going to start in February. Also, just the next couple of weeks, we are all over the place. We were meant to be moving. We're not now, but we are meant to be between a few different states in the US. So the rest of this month is going to be a real challenge to commit to anything because I'm not even near my weights for some of it. So in February, I will be able to do this, and it'll probably be from the second week of February. But I'll prep him already about it.
Perfect. Is there anything that can stop you?
Yeah, my mindset. I get a cold, or I'm under the weather, or I decide that I'm gonna cook for 3 hours. No.
So what are you going to do if that happens? How are you going to take you out of the kitchen or out of this mood?
It sounds like I'm this gourmet cook. I'm not. I do enjoy cooking. I'd much rather cook than work out. I just have to really remember why I'm doing this, that it's not going to be an overnight transformation. It takes time and energy, and I know that it does. So reminding myself that when you work hard for something, it can feel like you've got a sense of purpose. It can feel like a real achievement, and just reminding myself about other things that I've done, that I've worked hard at and had mental blocks around. When you can start to shift that, you feel good about yourself. You start to, it adds on to the feeling of I can.
Yeah, definitely.
Just reminding myself about other times that I've proved myself wrong and gone and done something.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing all of this with me.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
You're very welcome. Of course, this is just a very short demonstration of what coaching could be like. Of course, in a normal session, we would have a lot more time, more questions. So this is just a snippet of how it could be. But I think we can get some tips for the people who are listening to this episode, just so we can help them a little bit. How do we keep resolutions?
And how can you do it without having to have a coach as well, right?
Exactly.
I think the very first thing that you brought up, and I think it's so important, is to really clarify what that goal is. And then when you're talking about or thinking about that goal, making it measurable and obtainable. So we talked about the SMART goal, and this is an acronym that many coaches use. So the S is for specific, the M is for measurable, the A is for achievable, the R is for relevant, and the T is for time or time bound.
Time bound, yeah. SMART goals are very common in business as well. So if you work in business, you've definitely heard of them. So it's just something that could definitely help you stick to what you have in mind. And rather than just saying, oh, I'm just going to go to the gym from January. No, just pick the gym, write down how many times a week, make sure that you don't start going 5 times a week, because it ain't gonna happen. Come on, let's be honest. Be honest with yourself, be realistic. And I think something that really works for me at least is try to have a long-term goal. So if someone's goal is, for example, start going to the gym, why are you doing it? But think about it in the long run, because saying, oh, I just want to be fit next summer, I don't know, to me, it just doesn't work. I need to have a much longer, more important motivation. Yeah. To me, it would be, well, I want to develop healthy habits because I want to age well. I want, when I'm going to be 60, 70, 80, I want to be able to move, maybe not like right now, but I still want to be able to do all the things that I could do. You know, I'm just trying to think about it as more of a long-term commitment, and so it becomes more of a habit, and it's more of a marathon rather than a sprint, because it's much more manageable.
Another thing to think about is, and this is something I've really had to work at, it's actually just tracking your results. So if we had lots more time, we didn't dive really into that, but that would be something that we would coach someone on, which is how would you record that? How do you know that you are getting to your goal or achieving your goal? What does that look like? And then tracking the progress along the way and making that measurable somehow as well. And that is something I definitely have not really practiced a lot of in my life. And that's probably why I don't really stick to things either.
Yeah, I think not many people do it. And
when you do it, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, it is. It really puts things into perspective. And I think we grow up with this very strict mentality, academic mentality, where you always think about what else, what more, I need to do more. When in reality, you should also focus on what you have achieved so far, because it gives you a sense of achievement. And if you feel that sense of achievement, it makes you realize that you can actually do it. And if you know that you can do it, then of course, next week, it is going to be easier to say, oh, I need to go to the gym. Well, I have achieved all of this until now. I can do more. I think a lot of people are scared and they don't like to celebrate their wins because they are afraid that they would become lazy. But that's most of the time, that doesn't happen. You know, the opposite happens. You start realizing that, wow, it's working. I am doing something that actually works. Let's continue. I'm feeling good. I look good. Let's keep on doing this.
I also think that's a really valid thing to bring up, because I also think that if we learn to check in with the progression, a couple of things can happen here. One, we start to enjoy the journey much more. It means that we're living much more in the present moment. Lovely mindfulness sort of aspects here. And it means that we're not constantly worried about that end part. It doesn't feel quite so mammoth or monstrous or huge or overbearing, which can put us off. And also, who knows, but it could be that as you check in along that journey to that end goal, who knows, maybe weightlifting, and I don't know what the end result is, maybe weightlifting isn't the thing that I need to be doing every week, 3 times a week, and it could morph into something else that is far more appropriate. So you start to change that journey, and it doesn't mean that, oh, well, I've failed at that goal of weightlifting 3 times a week. It's morphed into something else that is also just as positive or actually more relevant to what you need. So if we learn to sort of check in along the way and celebrate those achievements and have moments of reflection, then there's much more room for growth.
Yeah, definitely. I think this would also be a nice question to ask to the people who are listening to us, because I'm curious to see what has been a successful New Year's resolution. And so if you start January by thinking, okay, so what have I done in the past that's actually worked out pretty well? I mean, it should give you the right motivation. How did you keep momentum? How did you continue doing whatever you set as a goal? Let us know. As always, you can find us on Instagram at the Stretch Zone _podcast. Just let us know what has been your most successful New Year's resolution.
This has been really helpful for me today. Thank you so much. I will let you know in a few months' time.
You are very welcome.
So thanks, Feds.
You are welcome.
Thank you for your time, listeners, today. Do reach out to us. And in our next podcast, we'll be talking about thriving through transitions, something that we are constantly striving towards, Feds.
Definitely. Thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account at @thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.